Have you ever wondered what the most terrifying sound in the universe might be? It's not the roar of an exploding star or the silence of an empty void. According to one of the most profound mystics of the 20th century, it is something far more personal, far more chilling. It is the sound of a soul finally understanding. A sound that echoes for eternity, born from a realization that comes just a moment too late. This is not a metaphor. This is a testimony, a spiritual vision recorded with painstaking detail in a diary that has shaken the faith of millions. We are talking about Saint Maria Faustina Kowalska, the humble Polish nun chosen by Jesus Christ himself to be the apostle of divine mercy. She was given a mission to remind the world of God's infinite mercy. But to understand the true depth of that mercy, she was also shown the terrifying alternative. In October of 1936, Sister Faustina was led on a harrowing spiritual journey. It was not a dream, nor a flight of fancy. Guided by her guardian angel, she was taken to what she called the chasms of hell, a place of great torture. And there, amidst the darkness and despair, she witnessed the very thing our title promises. What happens in the soul at the exact moment it realizes its fatal mistake, when all self-deception falls away and only the cold, eternal truth remains. The sound of that realization is something that stayed with her forever. Before we reveal what she heard, you need to understand who this woman was. Faustina was not a theologian or a scholar. She was a simple, uneducated woman, a cook and a gardener in her convent. This is crucial. Her simplicity made her a pure vessel for a message that was not her own. Her diary, Divine Mercy and My Soul, is not a book of her opinions, but a direct record of her conversations with Jesus, her visions, and the spiritual realities she was permitted to see. The Church has meticulously examined her writings and her life, finding them to be of heroic virtue and authentic sanctity. Pope John Paul II, who canonized her in the year 2000, called her diary a gospel of mercy. This is the source of the incredible revelation we are about to explore. This is not folklore or legend. This is from the pen of a canonized saint describing a vision given to her for the sake of all of us. So, let us journey with her. Imagine being taken from the quiet safety of your world, your reality suspended, and being led by a celestial being to the very precipice of the abyss. Faustina writes that she was terrified by what she saw, by the sheer scale of the suffering. She wrote, "I, Sister Faustina, by the order of God, have visited the abysses of hell so that I might tell souls about it and testify to its existence." She describes it as a vast place filled with a darkness that was itself a form of torment, a suffocating darkness where the very presence of God is absent. This absence, she would learn, was the source of all other pains. It is the vacuum at the center of this eternal suffering, the ultimate loneliness a soul can experience. But Faustina's vision went deeper than fire and darkness. Her account is terrifying because of its psychological and spiritual precision. She saw that the greatest pains were not inflicted from the outside, but bloomed from within the soul itself. A perpetual, burning regret. The torment was tailored to the life that was lived, an eternal echo of the choices made on earth. She saw different kinds of tortures, specific to the sins that led souls there. But before we explore those, and before we reveal the sound of that final horrifying realization, we must first understand the foundation of this eternal sorrow. Saint Faustina listed the specific torments she witnessed, and the very first one she mentions is the most devastating of all. It is the bedrock of all other pains. What is this first and greatest torment of hell? The answer is not what you might think, and it changes everything about how we understand this reality. The first and greatest torment of hell, the one that gives birth to all others, is not fire. It is not physical pain, at least not in the way we understand it. According to the vision of Saint Faustina, the first torment is simply this: the loss of God. Think about what that truly means. We are beings created by love for love. Every fiber of our soul, whether we acknowledge it or not, yearns for its source, for its creator. It is like a plant created to grow towards the sun. Now imagine that sun is not just blocked or clouded over. Imagine it has been permanently extinguished from your personal universe. This isn't just sadness or loneliness. It is a fundamental spiritual suffocation. It is a perpetual aching void where God's presence should be. The soul in this state finally understands, with perfect and agonizing clarity, what it has lost. It comprehends the infinite beauty, the infinite peace, and the infinite love it was created for, and it knows with absolute certainty that it has rejected it forever through its own free will. This realization is a constant, burning agony. This leads directly to the second torment Faustina witnessed, a perpetual remorse of conscience. Here on earth, we are masters of self-deception. We justify our actions, we blame others, we tell ourselves our sins aren't that bad. We create a comfortable narrative to live in. In that place, all narratives fall away. The soul is left naked with its own truth. Imagine your entire life replaying in your mind, not as you remember it, but as it truly was in the eyes of God. Every grace offered and ignored, every moment of selfishness, every person you hurt, every time you chose pride over humility or pleasure over duty. You would see it all with a clarity that is impossible on earth, and you would feel the full weight of it without excuse or defense. This isn't just guilt, it is an internal fire that consumes the soul. The soul sees the beautiful person God intended it to be, standing right next to the twisted, selfish person it chose to become. The gap between those two realities is the abyss of its own making. It is the eternal what if. What if I had listened? What if I had chosen differently? This constant self-inflicted torment is a key part of what Faustina witnessed. It is the mind turned against itself forever. And this brings us to the third torment, which pours salt on the wounds of the first two. It is the terrible knowledge that this state of being, this loss and this remorse will never, ever change. The finality of it is a torment in itself. On earth, no matter how dire our situation, there is always the possibility of change. There is hope. We can repent, we can try again, tomorrow can be different. In the reality Faustina saw, the word tomorrow has no meaning. There is only a permanent, unchanging now. The choice has been made, the door has been locked from the inside, and the condition is eternal. This realization crushes the soul under a weight of absolute despair. The absence of hope is a darkness far more profound than the absence of light. It is the understanding that the suffering will not end, it will not lessen, it will not be forgotten. It simply is. So we have the loss of God, the constant remorse of conscience, and the certainty that it will never end. These are the three foundational torments that every soul in that state experiences. But Faustina's vision did not stop there. She saw that the suffering was not one size fits all. It was deeply personal. She wrote that there are special tortures destined for particular souls. What are these tortures? They are the torments of the senses. And how they work is one of the most chilling parts of her entire vision. This is perhaps the most psychologically terrifying aspect of her vision. The special tortures she described are not arbitrary punishments inflicted by an angry God. Instead, they are the direct, eternal consequences of the soul's own choices.
Each soul, she saw, is tormented by that with which it sinned. The very instruments of its rebellion on earth become its instruments of torture for eternity. It is a chillingly perfect and inescapable justice. The soul is essentially trapped within the echo of its own sin. Let's make this more concrete. The eyes that on earth indulged in lustful glances, that looked upon others with envy, or that refused to see the suffering of the poor, now behold only horror. They stare into the monstrous despair of other damned souls, see horrifying demonic forms, and are forced to gaze eternally upon the ugliness of their own sin. The beauty they rejected in God and His creation is now replaced with a perpetual, inescapable ugliness. The ears that delighted in gossip and slander, that listened to profane music and blasphemous words, or that remained deaf to the cry of the needy, are now filled with a cacophony of horror. They hear nothing but screams, howls of despair, terrible curses, and the constant grinding accusations of demons and other souls.
The silence of God is a deafening roar that underlines all the other terrible sounds. The sense of taste that was given over to gluttony and drunkenness now suffers a horrific, unquenchable thirst and a gnawing hunger that is never satisfied. The mouth that spoke lies or cruel words is filled with something akin to fire. It is the perfect inversion of the fleeting pleasure it once sought, a momentary indulgence purchased at the price of an eternal, agonizing want. And then there is the torment of the fire. But Faustina is very clear. This is a fire that is purely spiritual, she writes, lit by God's anger. It is not a fire that consumes wood or flesh. It is a fire that burns the soul itself, a fire of pure despair and rage that does not destroy, but only torments. It penetrates every fiber of the soul's being without ever providing the release of annihilation. The body that sought illicit or selfish pleasure is now immersed in this fire of its own making. This is the environment of hell that Saint Faustina was shown, a place defined by the loss of God, perpetual remorse, eternal despair, and specific torments that are the direct fruit of a life of sin. The soul is not just in a prison, the soul is the prison. But our journey with Saint Faustina is not over, it is only just beginning. We have described the place and the general sufferings. We still haven't reached the heart of her testimony, the very promise of our video. What happens in that specific, singular moment when a soul, having just left the body, finally arrives in this state? What is the final, devastating thought that triggers the eternal cry we are about to reveal? To understand what the soul realizes, we must first understand the moment of its arrival. This isn't a slow descent on an elevator. It is an instantaneous transition. One moment, the soul is leaving the body, leaving behind the world of time, senses, and excuses. The next moment, it stands in the full, unfiltered light of eternal truth. This is the particular judgment. It is not a trial in a courtroom as we might imagine. There is no prosecuting attorney listing your sins. There is no need. In that instant, the soul sees itself with perfect clarity. It sees its entire life, not as a series of memories, but as a single, complete tapestry. Every thought, every word, every action, and every omission is laid bare. More than just seeing its actions, the soul experiences their true weight. It feels the pain it inflicted on others. It understands the ripple effects of its selfishness, the waves of darkness it sent out into the world. It sees every single grace God offered it during its life, a moment of inspiration, a friend's advice, a pang of conscience, an opportunity to forgive. And it sees with horrifying clarity how it pushed them all away. In this moment of absolute truth, the soul sees God as He is, infinite mercy, infinite love, infinite goodness.
And it sees itself as it is, a being created for that love, but which chose time and time again to turn away. It chose itself over God, pride over humility, darkness over light. And here is the most terrifying part of all. God does not condemn the soul. He does not cast it out. The soul does it to itself. Faced with the blinding, pure, and holy fire of God's love, the soul that has spent a lifetime cultivating selfishness and sin cannot bear it. It is like a creature of the deepest abyss being dragged into the full blaze of the sun. The light itself is a torment to it, because the light reveals its own ugliness. Unable to endure the presence of the very goodness it rejected, the soul, in a final act of prideful rebellion, casts itself away. It flees from the light. It chooses the darkness because the darkness is what it has become. It chooses the absence of God because the presence of God is an unbearable reminder of what it lost, of what it threw away. It makes its final, eternal choice for separation. And it is in that precise moment, the moment the choice is sealed, the moment the separation becomes permanent, the moment the last echo of grace fades, that the full realization crashes down upon it. The final illusion shatters. The last vestiges of prideful self-deception are burned away, not by the light of God, but by the cold, hard reality of its new home. The soul finally understands. It understands the bargain it made.
It traded an eternity of unimaginable joy, peace, and love for fleeting moments of pride, pleasure, or power. It sees the infinite value of what it lost and the pathetic, worthless nature of what it gained. It realizes that God's mercy was not a myth. It was a constant, gentle call that it actively and stubbornly ignored until its very last breath. The mistake it realizes is not just that it sinned, but that it refused the cure. It was dying of thirst while standing next to an infinite ocean, and it chose to die. This is the ultimate moment of truth. The soul understands, with a clarity it never had on earth, that its damnation is not a sentence handed down, but a suicide carried out in slow motion over a lifetime. It did this to itself. So what does this ultimate, horrifying realization sound like? What is the eternal cry that St. Faustina heard echoing through the chasms of hell? The answer is a single, devastating sentence. The sound that pierced the soul of St. Faustina, the eternal cry echoing from the abyss, is not one of defiance or anger at God. It is the sound of ultimate self-condemnation, a shriek of horrifying final clarity. The essence of that cry, which she heard in the depths of every tormented soul, is this: the mercy. It was real. Think of the sheer terror in that realization. It is the final agonizing admission that God was not the tyrant they imagined, but the loving Father they rejected. It is the understanding that every sermon they ignored, every sacrament they mocked, every pang of conscience they suppressed, it was all true. The offer of divine mercy was not a fairy tale, it was a lifeline they willfully cut with their own hands. This is the sound of pride completely and irrevocably shattered, but only when it is far too late to be replaced by humility. On earth, the soul told itself, "I am the master of my fate. I need no forgiveness. I will live by my own rules." In hell, the soul screams the opposite. His rules were the way to freedom, and I chose this cage. His forgiveness was everything, and I threw it away for nothing. There are no atheists in the reality Faustina witnessed. There is no doubt. There is only the unbearable eternal certainty of the truth they spent a lifetime denying. The existence of God is no longer a matter of faith. It is a felt, agonizing absence. His mercy is no longer a theological concept. It is the memory of a warm home whose door they slammed shut, a door that will never open for them again.
To add to this torment, Faustina saw that the demons, their former tempters, take a special sadistic delight in this moment of realization. They mock the souls, echoing their own despair back at them. "Yes, His mercy was real," they hiss, "and you listened to us. You believed our lies. You traded paradise for this pit, and we are your eternal companions." The very voices that once whispered sweet temptations now whisper bitter truths. This cry of "the mercy was real" is the perfect, horrifying inversion of the cry of heaven. The saints and the saved souls in paradise also cry out about God's mercy, but their cry is one of endless, joyful gratitude. "Your mercy is real, and it saved me." It is the same truth experienced from two opposite poles. For the saved, it is the source of eternal bliss. For the damned, it is the source of eternal torment. And this is why Jesus allowed Faustina to see such a terrifying vision. It was not to terrorize us, it was an act of mercy itself. He showed her this reality so that she could testify to it, so that we, living now in the time of mercy, would understand the stakes. He wanted us to know the sound of eternal regret so that we would never have to make it ourselves. He wanted us to understand that the battle for our soul is real, the offer of His mercy is real, and the consequences of our choices are eternal. The vision of hell is not the main message of divine mercy. It is the dark background against which the incredible brightness of His mercy truly shines. It shows us what we are being saved from. So, if this is the terrible reality of a choice gone wrong, what was the specific lifeline that Jesus gave to St. Faustina for souls, even the most hardened sinners, especially at the very hour of their death?
The answer is a simple prayer, an image, and a promise that almost sounds too good to be true, designed specifically to snatch souls from the precipice of this very fate. The incredible antidote to this eternal despair, the very heart of the message Jesus entrusted to St. Faustina, is the devotion to divine mercy. It is a powerful spiritual toolkit given directly from heaven, designed to be accessible to everyone, especially the weakest and most sinful among us. It consists of three primary elements: the image of divine mercy, the chaplet of divine mercy, and the feast of divine mercy. Let's start with the image. On February 22, 1931, Jesus appeared to Faustina in her cell. She saw him dressed in a white garment, with one hand raised in blessing and the other touching his garment at the breast. From this point, two large rays came forth, one red, the other pale. Jesus himself explained the meaning. The pale ray represents the water, which makes souls righteous, a symbol of baptism and confession. The red ray represents the blood, which is the life of souls, a symbol of the Holy Eucharist. These two rays represent the torrents of grace that pour out from His merciful heart, especially in the sacraments. But Jesus did not just show her this image, He gave her a direct command. Paint an image according to the pattern you see, with the signature, "Jesus, I trust in you." He then attached an extraordinary promise to it. He said, "I promise that the soul that will venerate this image will not perish. I also promise victory over its enemies already here on earth, especially at the hour of death. I myself will defend it as my own glory." This is a stunning promise. Veneration of this image is not idol worship. It is a physical reminder, an icon that points to the source of all mercy. The words, "Jesus, I trust in you," are not just a caption. They are the entire key. To trust in Jesus is to abandon our own pride and self-reliance and to throw ourselves completely into His merciful arms, believing that His love is greater than our sin. Then there is the chaplet of divine mercy. This is a simple prayer recited on ordinary rosary beads that Jesus taught to Faustina. It is a plea for mercy, not just for oneself, but for the whole world. The central words are incredibly powerful. For the sake of His sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world.
We are not pleading based on our own merits, because we have none. We are pleading based on the infinite merits of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. Jesus made a specific and urgent promise regarding the chaplet, especially for the dying. He told Faustina, "When this chaplet is said by the bedside of a dying person, God's anger is placated. Unfathomable mercy envelops the soul, and the very depths of my tender mercy are moved for the sake of the sorrowful passion of my Son." He even went so far as to say that even if a sinner is the most hardened, if they say this chaplet only once, they will receive grace from His infinite mercy. This is the lifeline. It is the spiritual weapon given to us to fight for souls, including our own, at that critical final moment. It is a way of directly appealing to the covenant of mercy established by Christ's passion, a way of reminding God the Father of the price His Son paid for that very soul. It is a prayer designed to break through the despair and pride that can grip a soul in its final moments. Finally, Jesus requested the establishment of a feast of mercy, to be celebrated on the first Sunday after Easter. He called this day a refuge and shelter for all souls, especially for poor sinners. He promised, "On that day, the very depths of my tender mercy are open. I pour out a whole ocean of graces upon those souls who approach the fount of my mercy. The soul that will go to confession and receive Holy Communion shall obtain complete forgiveness of sins and punishment." This is an incredible gift, a chance for a complete spiritual reset, a second baptism. It is a day when God's mercy overflows for the world. These three elements, the image, the chaplet, and the feast, are not just pious suggestions. They are a direct heavenly intervention, a rescue plan for humanity, given through a humble nun in Poland. They are the answer to the terrifying vision she witnessed.
They are the way to ensure that the cry of our soul at the end of our life is not one of regret, but one of grateful trust. So how do we put this into practice? How do we live this message of mercy in a world that seems so filled with judgment and despair? The answer lies not just in prayers and images, but in a fundamental shift in our own hearts and actions. Living the message of divine mercy is about transforming our lives into an echo of God's love. Jesus told St. Faustina that He demands mercy not just in our prayers, but in our actions. He said, "You are to show mercy to your neighbors always and everywhere. You must not shrink from this or try to excuse or absolve yourself from it." This is the great challenge and the great invitation. The vision of hell, with its terrifying sound of late realization, is not the final word. The final word is mercy. The entire point of Faustina's diary, the purpose of her suffering and her visions, was to hold up a lamp in the darkness and show us the way home. The way home is not through a life of perfect, sinless performance. The way home is through trust. It is the simple, childlike act of taking the hand of a Father who has been waiting for you all along. The choice that determines our eternity is not made in the final moment after death. It is made in the thousands of small moments that make up our lives, right here, right now. Every time we choose to forgive instead of holding a grudge, we are choosing mercy. Every time we choose a kind word over a sharp one, we are choosing mercy. Every time we fall and get up and ask God for forgiveness, we are choosing mercy. We are training our souls to recognize and desire the very light they will one day stand before. The sound St. Faustina heard from the abyss was the sound of a love story that ended in tragedy. But the message she was given is that it does not have to be our story. Our story is still being written. We are living in the time of mercy, and the pen is in our hands. Turning signs into action, your practical guide. In the next 24 hours, one conscious act of mercy. Jesus told Faustina that mercy is shown through deed, word, and prayer. Today, choose one of these. Offer a silent prayer for someone who has annoyed you. Speak a word of encouragement to a coworker or family member who seems down. Or perform a small hidden act of service, like tidying a common space or letting another driver merge into traffic. Do it not for recognition, but as a direct offering to the heart of Jesus. The 3 o'clock moment of mercy. Set an alarm or make a mental note for 3 p.m., the hour of Jesus' death on the cross. Wherever you are, pause for just 30 seconds. You don't need to kneel or close your eyes. Simply acknowledge the moment and say in your heart, "O blood and water, which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fount of mercy for us, I trust in you." This small act reorients your entire day toward the source of all mercy. In the next 7 days, pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy once. You can easily find the words and instructions online. Find a quiet 10-minute window this week, perhaps during your commute or before you go to sleep. Pray this simple but incredibly powerful prayer. Notice how it shifts your focus from your own problems to the needs of the whole world. You are joining a global chorus pleading for mercy, and there is immense power in that. Journaling on trust. Take a piece of paper and write the words, "Jesus, I trust in you," at the top. Below it, answer this question honestly. What is the one fear or worry that I am holding on to most tightly right now? Then write a simple prayer entrusting that specific situation to Him. This act of writing it down is a concrete step in letting go and truly beginning to trust. In the next 30 days, go to the Fountain of Mercy. Jesus called the sacrament of confession the Tribunal of Mercy. This month, find a time to go. Don't worry about how long it has been or what you will say. Prepare by reflecting on your life, and then simply enter that space, knowing you are not meeting a judge, but a Father who is ready to wash everything clean with the pale ray of His mercy.
It is a direct encounter with the grace Faustina wrote so much about. The forgiveness project, mercy received, must become mercy given. Identify one person in your life, past or present, who you are holding a grudge against. You do not need to contact them. The work is internal. This month, make a formal decision in your heart to forgive them. Write their name on a piece of paper and say, "For the sake of the sorrowful passion of Jesus, I choose to forgive, name. I release them to your infinite mercy." Then destroy the paper. This is a profound act of spiritual freedom. Do not let your last word be a realization. Let your life be a response. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next revelations. Comment what you thought of this video and what city you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs to know this message.